Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I am Marcelo Lune, the Headless Creator. As always, there's my email address, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. Send me an email with any questions you may have, any comments you may have. If you have any ideas for modeling some other stuff, I'm always open to that. So just send me a quick email. I'll get back to you probably within 24 hours. So today I'm gonna show you how to model surveys, which is really a continuation of last week where I showed you how to create quizzes. There's not huge differences between a quiz and a survey. The big difference is that quizzes have choices on the questions that a user can pick, but then there's a right answer and there's points associated with that. Where in a survey, you just have questions and then the user can answer those questions, right? So there are those basic differences. So we're gonna go into that. I'm gonna show you how to create all that in Miro as always. Then we'll jump into the Headless CMS. Today I'm using Contentful and we'll run some GraphQL queries after we see the authoring experience. But as always, before we get started, I do want to tell you real quick about headlesscreator.com. Get your free account, sign up, and once you get your account up there, you'll have access to the entire Content Modeling Weekly course, which currently has 41 lessons. This one will be lesson number 41. So getting up there to almost 50 lessons. At the bottom, you'll find also all the Miro boards for each of these lessons. So just get your free account at headlesscreator.com. You'll get this lesson on demand along with all the other lessons. And then, of course, you'll have access to pretty much every course that I offer, including all the Headless CMS courses, which currently we have 6. Plus Discover Headless Tech course where you get to discover and see how other technologies work and also have interviews with professionals. So go get your account. It's at headlesscreator.com. For those of you that already have it, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, you know how this works. I'm going to go ahead and restart the intro here because for the on-demand version, there's absolutely no marketing. We're going to jump right into the lesson. So I will see you all in just 10 seconds. Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I am Marcelo Lune, the Headless Creator, and as always, get a hold of me right there, marcelo@headlesscreator.com. Feel free to send me an email with questions, comments, ideas, whatever you like. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today, we're going to talk about surveys and how do we model surveys so you can create as many surveys as you want with unlimited questions and question types. Now, this is going to be, for those of you that watched last week's lesson number 40, this is number 41, you will notice that there are a lot of similarities between surveys and quizzes. The big difference is quizzes have questions with possible choices, and there's an answer. There's a correct answer, and then there's points associated with that answer, perhaps. Whereas survey, you just have questions, and then the user will just answer the question, right? And today we're going to talk about that. So why don't we go ahead and jump in. So let me share my screen. Here we go. And let's start by showing you a sample survey. And I went to SurveyMonkey, which everybody knows, not associated with them. They're not a sponsor or anything, but wanted to show you a sample survey. And then how do we build that in the content model? So here you have a survey that's showing us, it looks like we have 10 questions. And you can see that the first question has a scale 0 to 10 for an answer. The second question has multiple choices, but you can only choose one because it's a radio button. The third one has multiple choices, but you can answer as many as you want because it's a checkbox. Same with this here. So you can see there's a variety of questions. And then here at the final one is a question with the ability to do fill-in. So how do we create this in a model? Or how do we model something like this in for Headless CMS? So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to jump into Miro. For those of you that know, I have a standard here. And we're gonna go ahead and maximize my bureau board. Of course, we start blank, but you know how I am. We're gonna start first with, I have everything pre-cooked, just like a good cooking show. We gotta do that, otherwise we're gonna run out of time. I'm gonna bring in, let me go ahead and get rid of this here. We'll go get rid of that and that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and paste the first part. So what do we have here? Let's go here. We start out at the survey level, right? So we have a survey. A survey has perhaps a name, description. You can add as much metadata as you want for the survey, but this one has customer satisfaction survey template, they call it, but you know, it'd be customer satisfaction survey. So it has a name. I added a description because I wanted to. Now, format is something that I wanted to add. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you in a minute, and we're going to go ahead and leave this. We'll talk about questions in a minute. But the format is, in this case, it's showing you all the questions at once. It's format show me every question at once. They can scroll through. But I want to give the user the ability, or the author, the ability to say, for this survey, we're going to show it only one at a time, one question at a time. So then from the presentation perspective, you would show one question first. They click on next, show another question, click on next. So that's what this is. Then, of course, our survey has questions, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have questions. So we know that questions are going to be a different content type that we're going to go to. And we're going to have one-to-many, and we're going to allow the creation of questions or linking to questions that exist already. Now, you'll notice here that I have section questions and question. I'll explain that in just a minute. Why do I have section questions? But we'll get into that in just a minute. All right, so let's get into question now. We'll do question. And let's do this. We'll do, let's go here. So we have a question type, if I can type it in here. And the question will have, well, it has to have a question. It's going to have a type. So in other words, is this going to be a multiple choice? Is it going to be a fill-in? That kind of thing. And then what I want to do is I'm going to add some metadata for the question that I want the author to be able to select and then display differently on the front end. So do we want to randomize the answers? Do we want to allow for multiple answers? Should the answers is required, our answer is required. So in other words, do we just want to ask it, but maybe not make it required? Maybe we'll allow them to skip it. That would be a question right there. And then, of course, a question has to have answers. In other words, the ability to choose an answer. It could be a fill-in where they choose nothing. It could be a yes-no where they choose yes or no. It could be a scale, right? But you have to put in, or it could be multiple choices. So you have to have some sort of a field where you create the answers, the possible answers for that. Okay. So let's talk about question type, and I'm going to go ahead and cut and paste this here just because I have it. Question type, it's going to be something like this, right? We're going to do a one-to-one to question type. You can only link to it, okay? So let's do this here. You can't create new question types because question types have a code ID associated with it for your developer to be able to create the rendering engine for that type of question. So I would put some content governance around this content type that says only administrators can create new types when they work with the developers to create the ability to render those types in different delivery channels. But authors can go ahead and create questions and select the type of question they're going to have. Okay, so we have, this is going to be that. Perfect. Randomized answers allow multiple answers, and answers required. They're going to be Booleans. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then the question is going to be like a short text type. So then what do we do for answers? Now let's talk about question types for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. This is sample question types here. So let's do that. Let's put this here. All right, here are some question type examples. This is not a content type. This is just an example of entries that could happen here. We would have a fill-in question. We can also have a multiple choice that's checkbox, or a multiple choice that's a drop-down, or a multiple choice that is a radio, or a multiple choice that's a ranking. So you may have multiple choices and allow them to move things up and down and put them in that level. Like, I like this first, I like this second, and I like this third. That would be the answer. You may have a scale, like 0 to 10, like we saw here. This would be a scale. And you may have a yes, no. So do you like this? Yes, no. That's it. Kind of like a Boolean, right? And I'm just calling it yes, no, but you'll see. All right, so we have question type that goes here. So then here for answers, we're going to have answer types. All right, so we already spoke about the different types that we have right here. I showed you here the sample types. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you, because I already obviously created the sample types to save some time. I'm going to go ahead and paste this here. We'll delete this for now, because I'll bring that up later. Okay, so here we have, let me bring this, move it down. Okay, perfect, here we go. All right, so let's zoom in a bit. So what are the types of questions? Well, we say we have, if you think about this, we have one type here. These are all the same types, they're just displayed differently. So that's 2, 3, and 4. So we have the 4 types here. Number 1, we have a choice. In other words, a question can have multiple of these choices. Now, the choice could be a label choice, like a text, or it could be a media. Maybe you have choose the animal you love the most, and it's a dog, and it's a cat, and it's a giraffe, right? And then they can just choose on that. So that would be media. A yes, no is another type. And then, of course, for a yes, no, we would have a label. What is the label for yes and what is the label for no? So you could say, you can ask a question, say yes and no, or you can say true and false, or I love it and I hate it, right? It could be any of that kind of stuff. So you can put your own label. The other one type of question is a scale question, like from 1 to 10. So in other words, this one here, the first one they showed here, how likely is it that you would recommend this company to a friend or colleague? 0 to 10. So to be able to support that, we would have, let's go back here. We would have a type called scale that has a start number, an end number, and then the step, right? So we have, in this case, start with 0, end with 10, step 1 at a time. Now, I didn't put all the labels at each end. We'll talk about that later and how to add that to this. And then we have a fill-in. But why do we need a fill-in? Because if you have a question, you can, and you say type is fill-in, when then that's enough, right? Because you can, your developer can go, oh, if it's type of fill-in, then just show a fill-in box. But what kind of box? And that's why I'm doing this, because here you can let the author say, oh, it's a single line fill-in, it's a multi-line fill-in, or it's allow rich text as a fill-in. So that way they can define how that fill-in is going to look. So how do we attach all of these types to question? Well, through the answers right here. So let me cut and paste here, just to, again, speed things up. Okay, so here we go. So there we go. So now the question